Hi, I'm Annabelle Gray, and I'm product designer, one of the product designers for Code Review. And today I'm going to talk about suggested reviewers, the MVC. So to give a little bit of background, I'm going to use this somewhat in progress user journey. Actually, this is basically finished. So this is something that Pedro and I have been working on for a different issue, but it's super useful now for basically all code review issues. I'm also probably giving myself a little bit too much credit. We went back and forth, and then Pedro came up with this this user journey, and it's so helpful and beautiful and easy to read. So if you look at it, it's from the author and the reviewer's perspectives, and this is kind of the MR creation form. It's pretty linear. You're just filling out the form, and then the meat of the entire code review experience is in this box, and it's where you assign it to a reviewer. The reviewer has suggestions, they assign it back to the author, and then you kind of continue in this loop or square, but it's a cycle that goes around and around. And then when it's ready to merge, you kind of exit the cycle, you merge it, and you're kind of finished with that portion. The phase that I'm going to focus on right now is right here, and it's the first step in that cycle. So it's requesting peer review. The requesting is kind of in two parts, and I might actually add a step prior to this, and it's finding that right person, which is something that maybe we don't think about that much at GitLab because we have reviewer Roulette, and it kind of does all that work for us. But if you don't have that, it can actually be kind of a time sink to find that right person to review your merge request. So the problem to solve with this feature is that GitLab users, and by that I mean global GitLab users and not just the team members, but anyone who uses GitLab currently has to manually search for and select relevant reviewers for their merge requests. They have to take into consideration things like, does the reviewer have enough time to do it, or do they already have 10 merge requests assigned to them? Does the reviewer have the appropriate level of knowledge and potential domain expertise in order to review that merge request? And what time zone is the reviewer in? This could be important or not, depending on the author, or no, depending on the merge request type. If you have a severe bug fix, you might want to find someone that's in your exact time zone so that they can merge it right away. On the other hand, I've seen reviewer or authors pick someone that's in a completely different time zone. So if you are, let's say, based in North America, you create a merge request and it's not that important. It's for a feature that's upcoming. But if you assign it to someone, let's say in Australia, then there's a chance that that reviewer might be able to review it. And then by the time the author wakes up the next day and starts their day, they already have a review finished. And then finally, is the reviewer available and in office? Obviously, it's a big waste of time if you end up assigning it to someone who is on vacation. So deciding on that reviewer or reviewers who match the correct criteria can be time consuming, and it can extend that total MR cycle time. So how did GitLab used to solve this? It was kind of in three steps. First, 5 or 6 years ago, the company was so small that we only had maybe 5 maintainers. So everyone already knew who to assign it to. And this is true of many organizations who are small. They don't really have this problem because they know who to assign it to. But as the company grew and we added more and more new people, it became a little trickier to understand who the correct person is. So one way to do that would be to kind of search on the team page. If you were wondering who's a maintainer for code review, you could kind of cycle through just using Command F and hope that you'd find the right person. It still takes a lot of time, and you don't get additional data points like availability. So that was something that we used until Reviewer Roulette happened, which was, I'm sure you've all seen. This is just an example of a merge request. If you wait for that specific job to pass, then it generates a comment and it suggests different categories based on which files you edited in that merge request. So in this example, we've got backend and front end, and then spec files. So it'll suggest all those people. If they don't work, it's actually based on this GitLab review workflow dashboard, where you can kind of toggle on the people that or the categories that you need reviewers for, and it will fade out people who are on vacation, which is super useful. You can search by time zone, and you can generate a random selection of those people if you need to. So the goal of this feature was to kind of mimic this basic functionality, but kind of build it into the product for all GitLab users. So with that, I'll walk through the MVC designs. We wanted to keep it in a place that you would expect to see it. So that place was the sidebar. We already have the reviewer section right here. So we are going to be creating this subsection called suggested reviewers. In this example, the job hasn't finished yet, so there are no suggestions, but once that job passes, you'll see between 3 to 5, from what I understand, 3 to 5 users show up as suggestions. And those people are suggested based on availability, contributions, past reviews, I believe get blame data. And then I'm not exactly sure what other things that we'll be able to build in the future. But the idea is that these 3 people, for example, are suggested. If you choose one of those people, we're going to save that and kind of improve that model so that we know that we're suggesting the right people. If someone suggests, or if someone chooses someone who is not suggested, then we're also saving that and wondering, you know, how do we fix this so that our suggestions are actually accurate? When you choose one of them, they're assigned as the reviewer, like you might expect, and removed from this section. If you assign someone and then leave the merge request, then we'll go ahead and collapse that, because chances are if you've chosen one person or 2 people, you really don't need to keep seeing those people. You can still expand it and choose more if you need to. Another way that you can select a suggested reviewer is from the dropdown. The only thing we've changed is we've added the suggestions right at the top of that dropdown. So that's kind of it for the main MVC that we did solution validation on, and it seemed to work pretty well. An additional feature that we might consider. So at the time, I thought this might work, but I'm actually having second thoughts about it. But I think it's still interesting to talk about. So when you're creating a merge request, you see we already have the reviewer section right here. I thought, okay, well, it makes sense to add suggested reviewers here too, because we might as well mimic that exact same functionality because it's the same. A couple of reasons why I now think it might not be a good idea, but we should definitely test it. When I was doing internal user testing, authors rarely assigned reviewers at this stage. And to understand why, it actually helps to go back to this journey map, which we didn't have at the time, but you push your changes, you create the merge request form, fill out the details, and then you start this part right here, which is self-review. So you want to make sure that you filled out everything properly, make sure the commits are what you expect, make sure you're adhering to all the necessary guidelines, but also maybe checking your own code. Sometimes seeing it in a different place rather than your IDE kind of points out different bugs that you may have missed the first time. And then wait for that automated review. And by that, we mean your pipeline, make sure that you haven't broken any specs, make sure you're not introducing any code quality problems or severe vulnerabilities. And then just, you kind of have to wait for that. And if it's not positive, then you have to fix it and start that cycle again. Once that automated review has been completed and it's all good, then you mark it as ready. And then you move into the general like bake cycle. So this is where you start requesting your peer reviews. So that's kind of the main reason I'm not so sure that this is necessary anymore, but obviously we could use more testing because this is internal only, but it makes sense to me if you're following that like golden path that you probably don't know. You probably don't know if you're ready for it to be reviewed yet. Yeah, that's actually the whole design. Hopefully I don't know when it's going to be implemented, but hopefully, ideally, it's going to get smarter and smarter, and the suggestions are going to become more and more correct. And hopefully we can kind of whittle that 3 to 5 down to like 1 or 2. So we'll kind of gain confidence on the types of suggestions that we're making. Yep, that's it. Thank you.